Hi, everyone. I'm Allison Watson, and I am so honored to have worked at Microsoft from November of 1993 to end of year of 2019, 26 amazing years, and it could have been my best years of my life. I had an amazing career journey at Microsoft. I'm one of the few people that started really as an entry-level salesperson and spent my first almost decade in sales and marketing in our US subsidiary. Then I had the unbelievable opportunity to run the worldwide partner program for 8 years up at Redmond headquarters. And finally, the last 10 years of my career, I had the opportunity to rejoin the US subsidiary. I was the US CMO and at the end, the US SMC leader. And I became a corporate vice president in 2013. I was born in Washington, D.C., but I grew up in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, which is quite an unusual place to grow up. I moved from Washington, D.C. to Oklahoma City when I was only 5 years old. My parents had decided to pursue careers in law and medicine, and they thought Oklahoma City was a great place to raise a family. I proudly attended Stanford University and ended up majoring in economics after I changed my mind from pre-med. And after graduating, at the time, the job market was pretty tough to get into, but I lived in the Silicon Valley area, and we were at the very beginning of the PC networking industry. And there's a little company there that had just gone public that no one had ever heard of at the time called Oracle. And I knocked on the door over there and ended up in my first, I would call it direct marketing job at Oracle. When I was at Oracle and I was moving from a marketing role into a sales role, I was interviewed by a very famous person in the tech industry, Tom Siebel. And he said, well, Allison, what do you think? Why do you think you can sell databases? And I said, well, my mother is a lawyer and she doesn't use any form of technology. And I went and described to her how she could have all of the legal cases available to her if they were just in a SQL database. And instead of having to go and do research in libraries and look through card files, mom can have this automatic way to ask simple questions of a database and be able to return all of the information she was researching for. I guess it was good enough for Tom Siebel. It started my career in sales. It made a huge impact for the rest of my life. So I went ahead and enrolled and got my master's in business administration because I thought it was really important to go from just really starting to learn the basics of sales in this important technology industry that was really at just the very beginning, and then combine that with actual business experience and business knowledge. So I had a great 2 years at San Diego State University. And frankly, it made a big difference for me throughout my career because those tools and techniques I learned in business school, I reused again and again and again at Microsoft. I have a great story. So I moved to Richmond, Virginia. And when I got to Richmond, Virginia, I was looking for a job and I said, well, I know how to sell databases. And they said, gosh, we don't even know what databases are. We have mainframes and we have mini computers, but databases on PCs are not a thing here in Virginia. About a year and a half later, I got a call in November of 1993 from a manager who said, there's a couple gals who work in Richmond, Virginia, and they've just been hired full-time from Microsoft. They looked up your phone number in the white pages, if anybody remembers what white pages were. They looked up your phone number. I hope it's okay if I call you. I was interested to see if you'd like to join our team because we're now opening a full-time office in Richmond, Virginia. I'm super proud of that. The gals that looked me up in the white pages are still at Microsoft, Janelle Rhee and Marty Stevens-Hartka. And it is so fun to recall the story of the white page lookup and the phone call to me that started the beginning of my amazing career at Microsoft. I was employee number 15,000 when I started in Richmond, Virginia, and we were a small district sales office in the big Mid-Atlantic district. So when we were on the East Coast in Richmond, Virginia, and starting to sell Microsoft really wasn't well known in 1993. I was there for the Windows 95 launch. Well, that was the first time that Microsoft really got on the map. And we showed up, we rented a big room at a hotel. We had 2,500 people show up for the Windows 95 launch. We stood on stage and we talked about how great Windows and Microsoft was at the time. And once that happened, people started to really take our phone calls. I think it helped because, there was all magazine covers with Bill Gates on them. And you combine that with the energy and the excitement about PCs in the world, and you put that together, and suddenly we could start making phone calls and people would take our calls. That's how we did it. When I look back at Windows 95 and the turning point that it created, I think it was this really important point where PCs became actually available. People started to believe in them. And now there was a way to get access to using them in a friendly way. We had this thing we called WYSIWYG, which meant what you see is what you get. And that wasn't how computers were before Windows 95. So it made a big impact. I had come from Stanford University and we had the first Apple computers. Well, Apple computers were so easy. It just was second nature for me. And when I got and tried to show people in the broader world, wow, you can get a PC at a reasonable price with Windows on it and look at all the things you can do, people just lit up. They got so excited about it. In 1998, I was promoted to the general manager of the U.S. Mid-Atlantic District. And that role back then included our small, medium business, our enterprise business, our consumer and retail business, which included games and any other hardware equipment that we sold. And we had Microsoft Consulting Services. So it was a fairly large, diverse, and broad organization. I was really honored to have that role, to be the lead in the Washington, D.C. metro area, and to have over 300 people working for me across all the different organizations. It was so exciting how fast we were growing, and we segmented our business. We created our SMB business for the very first time at that time. We created a industry business at the time we called AdCoo. And we created and grew Microsoft Consulting Services because we knew that that would be the first place that customers that were large would start to trust us if we could show them how we can implement the technology for them. So we grew really, really fast. And the opportunity to get into management, to move, to hire and recruit people was phenomenal. And let me tell you, I learned a lot. I came to Redmond in 2002, actually to work for Kevin Johnson. And I was doing an interim role for him because it was a strategy role for me to grow my experience so that I could land into a more senior management position. And I had this most amazing experience during that first year there, where I got to work with Jeff Rakes and his entire Microsoft Office team. And we created the first solution sales specialist role. We called it the Business Productivity Advisor. I'm super proud of the work we did at that time. And it was really fun to work with Jeff and his team to really make an impact that, frankly, is still very important at Microsoft today. It was from that role, from my experience working with Jeff Rakes and Kevin Johnson and Orlando Ayala, that the three of them knocked on my door one day and they said, we've been talking together with Steve Ballmer, and we need someone to come over and work in our worldwide partner group. Would you be willing to take it on? I had some pretty amazing people knocking on the door asking me if I'd like to do it. I couldn't turn them down. So I said, sure, I'll give it a try. And 6 months later, I showed up at our partner conference to 1,500 to 2,000 really upset partners, because at the time, Microsoft didn't have a great relationship with partners. So the first thing I did was, hey, call me. I knew that our culture at Microsoft was you could reach out and talk to anybody you wanted at any time. I felt like I needed to do the same for our external audience. So at the beginning, I said, here's my email address, here's my phone number, reach out to me and I'll listen. And that started the beginning of a journey that I'm very proud of. And I think many still today will remember the journey we went on starting in 2002 with the Worldwide Partner Group. And it really changed the trajectory for Microsoft and its partners that still exist today. At the time I joined the Worldwide Partner Group, we were coming out of a period where we had just launched all of these big things. We'd launched Windows, we'd launched Microsoft Office, we'd launched Windows NT and SQL Server, and Microsoft really thought, wow, we are great. But right about 2002 was a time where we started to struggle with our image in the marketplace, both our image around how our pricing practices operated. We had images about customer satisfaction. We had image issues with partner satisfaction. So it was a real gut-wrenching time inside Microsoft. So after listening to thousands of partner input points, whether that be emails they sent us, we went to our partner meetings, we started to form partner advisory councils, and we just put microphones out in front of our partners, sometimes in very large audiences. And we said, tell us what we can do to be better. And they gave us loads and loads and loads of feedback. Once we took all of that feedback and put it together, we said, we need to come out as a new Microsoft. We need to come out and rebrand and re-talk about what makes us special. And we need to do it with a lens that says, you partners are what's important. It's you who matter the most for our company. You're the ones that are in front of our customers. Remember, I had worked for a Microsoft partner before I joined Microsoft. So I had that sort of idea of how it felt to be a partner directly representing Microsoft to our end customers. So we pulled all that data together and we decided to rebrand the actual program we were in. We called it the Microsoft Worldwide Partner Team. We decided to rebrand the actual system that our partners affiliated with. And we started out with the Microsoft Partner Network, and we later changed that to the Worldwide Partner Program. We came out with new certifications. We gave it a whole fresh new look and feel. And we went big with the voice of the partner. My team and I got together and we said, hey, partners, we're hearing you and we're going to listen to you one by one. And then we launched our new program a year later and we put the voice of the partner in front. We started bringing them to our audiences, in front of our audiences. We interviewed them. We let them tell their stories. We started filming their videos, talking about their businesses. We started to talk about how partners needed to be profitable in order to be successful. And we knew that our job was to help them be profitable. And once we really started talking about how companies' profitability was important to Microsoft, not just Microsoft's profitability, but the businesses of our partners and their profitability, then they started to really get excited. But if I were to sort of say one thing that added to that was we realized that we not only needed to win their minds by making them and talking to them about profitability, but we also really needed to win their hearts. So we just started doing anything we could to make it fun, to involve partners in everything we could do. We made partner advisory councils a really, really big deal, and we involved all executives with them. We got our executives on stage and open Q&As in front of all the partners, and we really thought the partner conference was a very important way to energize, not unlike how the sales meeting for Microsoft always was this point of really invigorating our sales force. So we said, why don't we do the same thing for our partners? So my team and I had the idea that we should bring all of the elements, the special elements from the internal sales meeting to our external partners, because frankly, they were simply an extension of our sales force. We created networking events so partners would meet with other partners, and we created what we called it P2P. If a partner could meet with another partner, maybe they could help grow their business even faster than if they were on their own. And oh my God, we just had so much fun trying to figure out how to make them multiply. So in the 8 years that I had the honor to run the Microsoft Partner Program, we transformed the business for Microsoft. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 1,500 to 2,000 partners when I took it over. And by the time we finished in 2010, we were proud to have 600,000 partner organizations from over 160 countries represented in our partner program. And so that's just a measure of scale. And that scale was phenomenal. So we created quite a bit of infrastructure to allow any kind of company out there in the world. And we had one framework that we repeated that I believe is still used today. Every time we looked at our program or anything we could do for partners, we said, how do we plan, enable, create demand, sell, service, and retain anything that we did in a program? So what's our plan? And how can we help our partners plan? How do we enable them and train them and make them good at what we need them to do? How do we help create demand for our partners so that they can be successful? How can we enable them through sales techniques? How do we allow them to do better services? And more importantly, how do we retain them and allow them to retain their customers? I think that framework was super successful for us. It was in every one of the management and sales memos I wrote over that period. And I get feedback from folks today that they still use that framework as a reminder to be full life cycle with all those partners, so we keep them coming back and we keep them telling friends to create new businesses all around. So in 2010, when I moved over to the US subsidiary as the US CMO, there was this real opportunity to bring everything that I loved about the partner channel and really embed it deeply into the sales force. And at the time, the partner team and the sales teams were not totally integrated inside the subsidiaries. So I walked in and it seemed very logical that our salespeople only go so far. They're going to need a partner at every angle, whether it's a small, medium business or an enterprise business or a consulting opportunity. So we worked really hard to create, if you will, workflow and processes so that we could connect our sales efforts, our marketing efforts, and our partner efforts to results with revenue. We achieved our goals and were District of the Year multiple times when I was the US CMO. And that was always a big highlight because that meant we were delivering for Microsoft. There was this old saying, as the US sub got sick, Microsoft would get the flu. And so we always had to deliver for the good of the company, and that just accelerated for the company. But I was really proud of how we met those goals. We hired great people. We had a little mantra, not unlike the partner mantra that I had in the partner group. We said, who will do what by when, and how will we know? And that simple set phrase, who will do what by when and how will we know, was very empowering because it allowed us to create programs, create goals, to figure out if our programs were being implemented across our sales force. And as a result, we kept winning and getting recognized and winning as a great sales team, not only internally at Microsoft, but with our customers and partners externally. What did I love working about Microsoft is we create. So I was in the sales and marketing department, but we created and innovated at every step of the way, from my first 6 months on the job all the way to the last 6 months. We had this original value at Microsoft called Microsoft takes big, bold goals. And we like big challenges. And frankly, we did. Every year we thought, oh my God, how are we ever going to get this done? And so we sat down, smart people would get in a room together. We'd think about how to get it done, and we create something new to get it done. We innovated with people, we innovated with process, we innovated with technology. We loved it so much that we loved to show it off to customers. We'd run a day in the life of working at Microsoft for our customers. And our major theme was how we, as a sales and marketing organization, could innovate inside our own company to make the overall company better. It was a major theme and we loved it. It's what made working at Microsoft so awesome. It was lovely to see Microsoft recognize the impact that a broad and diverse set of people, whether that be geographically diverse, whether that be racially diverse, whether that be gender diverse, whether that be socially diverse. Microsoft made that recognition. And once we made that recognition, I got to be such a big part of helping grow and change the culture to really welcome in all kinds of people with all kinds of insights and learnings and different cultures to make an impact. And frankly, we started to realize if we can be reflective of the people and the customers on the exterior in a more productive way, then internally we will be more successful. And I think that really has played true for Microsoft. I think the giving campaign is one of those most magical things that Microsoft does. And from the very first day I knew about it, I thought, how can I give my time and how can I give my money to make an impact out in the world? So when I had the opportunity to become the chair of the giving campaign with Soma Somagaskar, we had the best time. We said, you know what? We want to make this the biggest campaign ever. We want to get the most resources we can raised for the most number of organizations. But we had a second goal. We wanted to have the highest participation ever across the employee base in Microsoft history. And so that's the goal we set, and that's the goal we achieved. I frankly loved every October at Microsoft with the Giving campaign. I love the fact that we have the ability to support it through the Microsoft Alumni Association. And it's one of the things I think of fondly when I think of the impact that Microsoft has had into organizations across the world. It makes a big impact. So if I'm to look forward 50 years and wonder about Microsoft's legacy, I frankly, I think this is a really good question for Bill, because he can think that far in advance. I always thought it would be better if I could tell you what I think would happen in 3 years. So, frankly, the legacy we have is this concept at the very beginning of my career was there'd be such a thing as a computer on every desk in every home. So is there going to be a legacy where the computers are so integrated into our daily life that they accelerate and make us better humans, and that computers enable things that are hard to do and make them easier, and that computers enable us to have incredible, fulfilling, successful lives. So one of the things that made Microsoft great, both then and now, is that we had this culture of being competitive. And when I started, it was all about competing to win in the marketplace. We stood on stage and we said, how do we protect the Windows paradise? And then we stood on stage again and we yelled, sun down, sun down. And a few years later, we said, wow, we really need to win the hearts and minds of our customers and our partners. And later in my career, we decided that if we competed to be the best that we could be every day, that not only would we be successful, those around us would be successful, and those that were impacting would be successful. So the one thing that I would tell everyone today, or tell myself when I started, was if I competed to be the best I could be, and I inspired those around me to compete to be the best they could be, there is no stopping what we dream of. We've had longevity, frankly, because of our people. And as long as we have amazing people coming in that front door who want to do amazing things in the market, whether it was the leadership of Bill, the leadership of Steve, or the leadership that we're currently seeing from Satya, or all of the other hundreds and hundreds of leaders, it's all about our people. And that's the thing, that's our secret sauce. It's us.